There was frosting on my shirt when she told me she never loved me. Not metaphorical frosting. Real, white and lavender buttercream. I had just finished cutting the cake. People were still chewing. Someone was mid-bite when it happened. The music hadn't even looped yet, and the candle smoke was still curling in the air like some kind of omen. She stood beside me, cheeks flushed, eyes glossy, hands clasped in front of her like she was about to deliver a TED Talk on how to surgically remove a man's heart in front of 36 casual acquaintances. "I don't want to do this anymore," she said. "I mean us. This." It took me a full 6 seconds to realize she wasn't talking about the party. Someone thought she was joking. They laughed. She didn't. I dropped the cake knife. I didn't say a word. I just stared at her like I was waiting for the real punchline. Like Ashton Kutcher was going to pop out from behind the cheese table and yell, "You just got punked." But no, this wasn't a prank. This was my wife, ending our marriage. At her own birthday party. Just after blowing out 37 candles that I had arranged myself in the shape of a constellation she once claimed reminded her of her dead cat. She didn't even flinch when I stepped away. I remember walking to the restroom, locking the door, and sitting on the closed toilet lid for 15 straight minutes, just blinking. I wasn't even crying yet. Just blinking, like my brain had shut the lights off and was waiting for a reboot. People texted me from outside. "You okay, man? Was that real? Do you need anything?" Yeah, I needed a new dimension to live in. When I came back out, the crowd was thinner. Someone had turned the playlist off. Moira, yeah, that's her name, was sitting on the edge of the wooden stage with him. He wore a scarf. In July. Indoors. I didn't know who he was yet, but I knew what he was. The way her knees tilted toward him, the way her fingers played with the stem of her wine glass. It was like I was watching a scene in a movie I hadn't been invited to. I stood in the corner, holding a cup of flat ginger ale, while people avoided my gaze like I was contagious. I heard whispers. Her sister walked past me and didn't even make eye contact. Then the party just fizzled out. They left together. I stayed behind, paid the bartender, helped stack chairs. I even wrapped up leftover cupcakes in foil for no one. The janitor gave me a sad nod. I've never felt more pathetic in my life. But the real blow didn't come until later. 2:46 a.m. My phone lit up. Her name. I stared at it. My finger hovered. I don't know why I answered. She said, in a voice so gentle it almost sounded fake, "You know I love you, right?" That's when I knew it wasn't confusion. It wasn't a mistake. It was cruelty. And somehow, that was just the beginning. You ever go home after a party and just stare at your own furniture like it belongs to someone else? That's what I did. For hours. I sat on our corduroy love seat, the one she used to complain scratched her thighs, and listened to the sound of my own breath while the refrigerator clicked in the background like some kind of ticking time bomb. I didn't cry. Not yet. That would come later. What I did was open every drawer in our living room like I was trying to find the manual for how to survive this exact kind of emotional decapitation. At some point around 4 a.m., I walked into our bathroom. The light was still on. Her earrings were in the sink. Gold hoops. One of them had a tiny chip in it. Probably from that time, she dropped it down the stairs while we were arguing about composting. But here's the part that made my stomach turn. Her perfume was still hanging in the air, like her absence hadn't caught up to her scent yet. The ghost of her was still brushing its teeth next to mine. Then I saw it. A t-shirt, rolled up on the counter like someone had carelessly left it behind. Only it wasn't one of mine. It was navy blue, oversized, and smelled like a cologne I didn't recognize. Earthy, peppery, too bold for me. She left me, but she didn't leave alone. And now I had proof. I don't know why I didn't throw it away right then. I just stared at it, like I was trying to summon answers from the stitching. Around noon, she texted me. "You can keep the plants. I know you're better at keeping them alive anyway." Not "I'm sorry." Not "I didn't mean to hurt you." Not "I regret making you a national embarrassment on your own party bill." No, just plant custody. This is when I started unraveling. I didn't tell anyone right away. Not even my brother, who I usually trauma dump on when my allergies flare up and I spiral about mortality. I just shut down. I went to work like nothing had happened. I answered emails. I watered her succulents like a man possessed. But I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her hand on his shoulder, the way she leaned in when he whispered something during the party. It wasn't a maybe. It wasn't paranoia. It was real. And I had missed every warning sign because I thought love meant trusting even when your gut was screaming. On the third night, I caved. I called her, just to hear the way she'd answer. She didn't pick up. But 30 minutes later, I got a text. Please don't do this. We said we'd keep it graceful. Graceful? Like this was a ballet. Like what she did was artful. That night, I opened our shared photo drive and started deleting the album named Lighthouse Moments. It was her idea. Photos of small, beautiful things we noticed together. A bug on a window. A reflection in a puddle. The kind of intimacy no one else would ever understand. Gone. I didn't cry while I did it. Not until I got to the one of her sleeping in the car, holding a sandwich she never ate because she said it smelled like regret. That one broke me. Because in that photo, she still looked like mine. The next morning, my neighbor Alan, he's 73 and walks his dog at the same time every day, knocked on my door. He handed me a cardboard box. Said Maura had dropped it off. Inside, her paintbrushes, a copy of Wuthering Heights with my notes in the margins, and a receipt from a hotel she had checked into 2 days before her birthday. She had planned this. She had planned to leave me before the party, before the toast, before the cake, before the candles, before the moment she blew them out and made a wish. A wish I now know didn't include me. I drove to the hotel. I shouldn't have. I knew it would destroy me. I knew there was no good reason. But reason doesn't live in a body that's been hollowed out. It doesn't whisper back when you're staring at a ceiling at 3:17 a.m. asking why someone you love chose to be cruel in front of strangers instead of honest in private. The receipt she left in that cardboard box had a room number scribbled on the back. 217. I told myself I was just going to see it. That I wouldn't go inside. That maybe I'd find closure in knowing what kind of place was worth lighting a match to a marriage for. But I think part of me hoped I'd catch her there. That maybe she'd look up from a coffee cup and realize she made a mistake. I wore a hoodie and a baseball cap like I was in some amateur spy movie. The lobby was quiet. All beige wallpaper and floral carpets that probably hadn't been updated since the early 2000s. I waited for the elevator alone. I watched the numbers tick up like heartbeats. When I reached the second floor, I didn't walk straight to the room. I lingered down the hall. I checked if I could hear anything. Voices. Music. A laugh that didn't belong to me anymore. But it was quiet. And the door was open. Just a crack. Like whoever was inside had stepped out for ice or left in a rush. I should have turned around. I know that. But my body moved before my brain could object. I pushed the door open slowly, like I expected someone to yell. No one did. The room was empty. No bags. No clothes. No shoes. Just the bed, rumpled, used. 2 wine glasses on the nightstand. One of them had lipstick on the rim. Not red. Mora's color. A kind of dusty plum. Her casual shade, she used to call it. The bathroom door was ajar, lights still on, and there was a half-used bar of soap in the dish with long brown hairs curled into it like question marks. But the thing that made my knees lock was the painting hanging over the bed. It was a cheap framed print, something mass-produced and hotel-grade. But I recognized it instantly. A stormy coastline. Jagged rocks. Pale blue sky. It was the same painting she had taken a picture of on our honeymoon 3 years earlier. Back then, she stood in front of it in a different hotel room, laughed, and said, "Looks like how it feels inside my head most days." That image became an inside joke, a metaphor for her moods. The painting, the storm, and now here it was again, hanging above the bed she shared with someone else while I was setting up string lights and ordering handcrafted cupcakes with edible glitter. I stood there for a long time, long enough that I started to feel like an intruder in a memory I wasn't invited to. Then I saw it. In the trash can. A receipt from a gas station. 2 drinks. 1 bag of sour candy. And a prepaid burner phone package. She had been planning this for weeks. Maybe longer. On the way out, I passed a cleaning lady. She smiled. I couldn't even return it. Just kept my head down, the weight of everything I'd seen pressing my ribs inward. I drove home in silence. Not a single sound. No radio. No podcast. Not even the pathetic comfort of white noise. When I pulled into our driveway, her garden was still blooming. She had spent months arranging those flowers by color and bloom time. I had helped dig the bed, 1 blister at a time. Now I couldn't even look at them. I went inside. I didn't turn on the lights. Just sat in the kitchen. That's when it happened. A ping. She texted me. At 9:48 p.m. Did you take the box I left? Please don't go through my things. This doesn't have to be messy. Messy? I sat there shaking. Not with rage. Not with grief. But with disbelief. She had staged a soft exit. A clean cut. A PR-approved breakup. And I had ruined it by daring to feel anything other than politely discarded. I didn't respond. The next morning, my mailbox had a letter. Handwritten. No envelope. Folded once. Just 6 words. Let me explain when you're calm. As if the act of betrayal had a proper pitch deck she hadn't gotten a chance to present yet. And I realized something. Something small and stupid, but it burrowed deep. She had never once said the words, "I'm sorry." Not once. Because in her mind, she hadn't ended a marriage. She had just stepped out of a skin she didn't want anymore. And somehow, I was supposed to thank her for not shredding it in public. You know that moment when grief starts to rot into curiosity? It's like the sadness burns itself out, and what's left is this dry, compulsive need to know. To poke at the wound, just to see if it still bleeds. That's where I was. 3 days after the hotel. No answers. Just the silent throb of confusion and the faint scent of her shampoo, still clinging to the bedroom curtains like a final insult. She hadn't come back to the house since she left. Not once. No knock. No dramatic confrontation. Just texts. Polite, measured, inhuman texts. I had stopped replying. The last thing I sent was a thumbs-up emoji because I didn't trust myself to use words anymore. That morning, I made coffee. My hands were shaking too badly to pour. I hadn't eaten a full meal in days. I couldn't stand in the kitchen without remembering the way she used to hum while slicing strawberries. How she used to dance barefoot on the tile while I wiped down the counter, pretending I wasn't smiling like an idiot. I sat at the dining table and stared at the opposite chair. Then I noticed it, her laptop. Closed, tucked under a stack of unopened mail. She'd left it behind in her hurry, maybe assuming I wouldn't touch it. And I hadn't. Until then. I opened it. No password. At first, I just sat there unsure. What would be the point? More pain. But then I remembered something. Our shared Google Drive was still connected. Automatically synced. Photos, documents, projects. She had always been careless with logging out. Said it was too exhausting to keep switching profiles. So I clicked into the drive. There were the folders, finances, taxes, photos, art projects, and a new one I'd never seen before. Titled simply, June. It had been created exactly 4 weeks before her birthday. I opened it. Inside were 37 files. PDFs, Word docs, screenshots, scanned receipts, audio memos. The first thing that hit me was how clinical it all was. Like a file on a patient. Or a case study. The first file was a spreadsheet. A 2-column chart titled, Reasons to Stay/Reasons to Leave. I wish I were making that up. Under Reasons to Stay, she had listed. Reliable. Kind when not depressed. Keeps promises. Would never leave first. Loves me, even when I don't deserve it. Under Reasons to Leave. Emotionally inert. Avoids conflict until it explodes. Doesn't challenge me. Boring in bed. Too attached to routine. Makes me feel like a roommate, not a woman. That one hurt the most. Roommate. I used to think that was a strength of ours. That we could live together without tension. That we shared silence comfortably. Apparently, she saw that as a red flag. But the worst part wasn't the list. It was how early it had been written. Weeks before her party. Weeks before I even noticed anything wrong. While I was planning the evening she would eventually hijack to break me, she was writing up bullet points on how to escape. The next file was a scanned hand-drawn map. A literal flowchart of exit strategies. Step 1 was create distance. Step 2 was reinforce independence narrative. Step 3 was let him believe it's his idea, if possible. There were arrows and alternative paths based on whether I responded emotionally or logically. It was a breakup playbook, a manual on how to dissolve a person. Then came the audio memos. I clicked on one out of sheer masochism. Her voice crackled through my headphones. Low, tired, like she was recording at night. I think he knows. I can tell by the way he doesn't look me in the eye when I get home. He's too polite to ask, but he knows. Maybe he always knew I'd outgrow him. Outgrow me. Like I was a sweater she'd kept from college that no longer fit her aesthetic. I clicked another. I don't know if I love Jasper. I think I just love the way he sees me. I feel like a person around him. Not a calendar. Not a stability machine. There it was. Jasper. The scarf guy. The one who whispered in her ear as she blew out the candles I lit. It didn't stop there. There were screenshots of emails. Photos I'd never seen. One of her on a rooftop bar, smiling at someone just outside frame. One of her in a hoodie I didn't own, eating Thai food out of a takeout container with the timestamp July 21st 11:34 p.m. I was at home that night, scrubbing wine stains out of the couch after she knocked over a glass, while showing me a funny reel she never finished playing. Every click on that drive was like peeling back another layer of someone I didn't recognize. Someone who hadn't just fallen out of love, but strategized her exit like a heist. But then, something else. A file I almost missed. It was titled, "To Send If He Finds Out." My heart froze. I hovered my cursor over it, then clicked. It was a letter. Typed. Dated. Addressed to me. Everett. If you're reading this, then you went looking. I don't blame you. You always had that soft, patient curiosity. Like you wanted to believe the truth would be kind if you were gentle enough with it. I guess I owe you answers. But I won't give you all of them. Because not everything I did was about you. Some of it was about me trying not to vanish in the life we built. And some of it was about things you never saw coming. You should talk to Paisley. She knows more than I do at this point. I'm sorry. I really, truly am. Even if you never believe that. Paisley. My friend. The one who told me Jasper was just a chakra coach. Why would she know more? I closed the laptop. My coffee was cold. My hands were numb. Something else was going on. Something Moira hadn't told me. Something Paisley had hidden. And I was about to find out what. I didn't text her first. I couldn't. After reading that message, you should talk to Paisley. She knows more than I do at this point. I just got in the car and drove. I didn't even finish putting on real clothes. I was still in an old t-shirt from a summer music festival Moira had dragged me to 3 years ago, where we argued about whether the band's third album was a conceptual genius or half-baked reverb nonsense. For the record, it was the latter. Paisley lived about 15 minutes away. She'd always been the bright one in the group, the conversational glue. Everyone liked her, mostly because she knew just how much of herself to reveal to keep people interested and never announce more. I used to think of her as Moira's emotional translator. Moira would storm or sulk or flirt in ways I didn't understand, and Paisley would decode it gently over coffee. She's just overwhelmed, or she's in that zone where everything feels like a cage. So when I knocked on her door, I wasn't expecting a grand confession. Maybe some awkward sympathy. A teary admission. But not what I got. She opened the door smiling. Not just a polite, oh hey smile, but one that froze halfway through her face the moment she saw it was me. She tried to recover, quickly brushing a lock of hair behind her ear and stepping aside. Hey, she said too fast. I didn't know you were stopping by. You told me Jasper was her chakra coach, I said. No hello. No warm-up. Her mouth tightened. Okay, she muttered, stepping aside and gesturing me in. So I guess she sent the letter. I walked in. Her apartment smelled like incense and orange peels. Same as always. But the air felt wrong. Like someone had just said something unforgivable in the room minutes before I arrived. The tension was still hanging there, invisible but sharp. She left me a folder, I said, sitting stiffly on her couch. Google Drive. She said you knew more than she did. Paisley didn't sit down. She hovered by the kitchen island, fidgeting with the sleeve of her oversized cardigan. I didn't mean for it to involve you, she said eventually. It wasn't supposed to go like this. Go like what? She exhaled. Not dramatically, just tiredly. It started small. Just conversations. She was venting. I was listening. I knew she was pulling away from you, but I thought it was just a phase. I tried to support her without encouraging, destruction. Then Jasper came into the picture, and it all got muddy. Muddy. She met him through me. I blinked. Wait, what? I didn't set it up like a date, she rushed. It wasn't like that. He was at one of my workshops. They talked. They clicked. It wasn't planned. But I didn't stop it either. She finally sat down, not across from me, but beside me, like she wanted to close the gap before it became a chasm. I thought she just needed to feel seen. Alive. You two had become this quiet machine. Efficient. Predictable. She was losing pieces of herself, and I didn't know how to help anymore. So you gave her another man? I gave her a mirror, she snapped. Then softened. I thought it would pass. There was a long silence. A kind that felt like it aged the room around us. Did you know about the hotel? I asked. She nodded. I knew she booked it. I didn't know she was going to do it then. I didn't know she'd humiliate you like that. Did she plan the breakup to be public? Paisley hesitated. Then no. That part was a panic move. You were too good to her that night. It made her feel trapped. Guilty. I think she wanted you to be cruel so she could justify everything. When you weren't, she short-circuited. I laughed. Bitterly. So I was too kind to keep. You were too calm to shake her loose. I stood up. The room was tilting slightly. Not from alcohol, just from emotional whiplash. I had come here for answers, and all I was getting were puzzles layered in philosophy. There's something else, she said suddenly. Before you go. I paused. She was sick last year. Didn't tell you. Nothing terminal. Nothing dramatic. But it scared her. Badly. She started writing those files in the June folder after she got a second opinion. My mind went blank. She thought she was dying? She thought something was wrong that couldn't be fixed. And when the second scan came back clean, she didn't feel relieved. She felt detached, like she was already gone. I think that's when she started rewriting her life. Not because she wanted to leave you, but because she thought she already had. I didn't say anything. I walked to the door, put my hand on the knob. Paisley added, softly, "There's something else in that drive, Everett. You didn't scroll far enough. There's a video." I left without asking anything more. I didn't want to know what kind of video she meant, but I also knew I'd open it before the night ended. Because now it wasn't just about betrayal anymore. Now it was about the question I'd avoided from the start. Who had she become while I wasn't looking? I waited until midnight. Not because I thought it would make it easier, but because I couldn't bring myself to watch it with the day still breathing. There's something about darkness that dulls the sting, like shadows can hold pain longer than you can. The house was silent. The kind of silent where the fridge hum felt like a drumbeat, and every floorboard groan sounded like it knew something I didn't. Her laptop was still on the dining table, right where I left it. The screensaver had kicked in, a swirl of stars. It was one of Moira's favorites, something she said made her feel unanchored in a good way. That phrase used to annoy me. Now it sounded like a riddle from someone who had been planning her escape by cosmic metaphor. I clicked into the folder again. June. Still 37 files. Still the same cruel list, the flowchart, the voice memos. But now I scrolled all the way down. And there it was. Untitled. MOV. No date stamp. No description. Just a black thumbnail with her name in the metadata. I clicked. The screen faded in from black. No intro, no music. Just her, sitting in what looked like the guest room of her sister's house. Neutral walls. A sad-looking ficus in the corner. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her hair was pulled into a messy knot like she'd just rolled out of bed. And her face, it wasn't the one I knew. It was raw, tired, unfiltered in a way that made me feel like I was looking at something I shouldn't. Then she spoke. If he's watching this, it means I couldn't tell him the truth face to face. Or I did, and he didn't believe me. Which wouldn't be surprising. I lied too well for too long. She paused, looked down, then back up again. I didn't cheat on you at first. I need you to hear that. It didn't start that way. I met Jasper at one of Paisley's workshops. We talked about, God, I don't know, plants and old houses and how we both hate the sound of zip ties. It was stupid, harmless, until it wasn't. But even then, it wasn't about sex. It was about space. About someone seeing me without asking me to justify what they saw. My chest tightened. The way she said justify, like love was something I had always put on trial. I felt like a ghost in our house, she continued. You were kind, stable, gentle, but I needed to be shaken. I needed to be seen in a way that made me uncomfortable. Jasper did that. At first, I hated him for it. Then I hated myself. Then I stopped hating anyone and just started drifting. The video cut for a second, a glitch or maybe an edit. When it came back, she looked more composed, sitting straighter. I know what I did was wrong, and I won't ask you to forgive me. But there's something you need to know. She reached off screen and held up a piece of paper. A test result. I paused the video and zoomed in. Positive. HCG levels confirmed. Expected gestation, 4-5 weeks. My vision went white for a second. I couldn't hear anything. Couldn't think. Just static. Like a screen in my head had been unplugged. She resumed. I found out the week before my birthday. I didn't tell Jasper. I didn't tell anyone. Not even Paisley. I don't know who the father is. It could be you. It could be him. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. I made this video in case I couldn't carry the secret any longer and also couldn't carry the child. I didn't want to leave you with only silence. You deserved more than that, even if I couldn't give it to you in person. She stared at the camera for a long time. No blinking. No twitching. Just her and the weight of her own regret. I'm sorry I made a mess of us. You didn't fail. I just fell apart in your blind spot. Then the screen went black. No signature. No date. No end credits. Just darkness. I sat frozen for I don't know how long. The thoughts didn't come in words. They came in fragments. Echoes. Flashes of moments that now felt poisoned. Our camping trip in May. That random Tuesday night. She asked if I ever thought about being a dad. The way she kept pressing her palm to her lower stomach during dinner 2 weeks ago, and saying nothing when I asked if she was okay. I didn't cry. I wanted to. But all I felt was stillness. A kind of emotional paralysis that left me hovering just above myself, watching from a safe distance. Pregnant. She was pregnant. And the child might be mine. Or it might be the man who whispered in her ear while she stood inches away from the candles I lit with my bare hands. And now I was holding a truth that no one else knew. A truth I didn't ask for. A truth I wasn't ready for. A truth that might destroy what little of me was still intact. But I had to know. Because now there were stakes far beyond my ego. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about blood. And the next move I made would define whether I let that child become another piece of wreckage, or the only reason I ever got out of bed again. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the sun rise from the floor of the living room, my back against the wall, knees pulled to my chest like I was trying to protect myself from an explosion that had already gone off. I replayed the video in my mind so many times that her voice started to lose shape. I couldn't tell where the woman I loved ended and where the stranger began. All I knew now was this. There might be a child, and that child might be mine. For the first time in weeks, the anger faded. It didn't disappear, but it shrank. Grief took its place. And in that grief was a sense of duty I couldn't ignore. I had to talk to her. Not through files or unfinished apologies. Not through people like Paisley. I needed to look her in the eyes and ask her one simple question. What happens now? But before I could reach out, he did. My phone rang at 10:11 a.m. The number wasn't saved. But I knew. You always know somehow. I answered with a stiff breath, expecting silence or some smug attempt at dignity. What I didn't expect was the first thing he said. You deserve to hate me. Jasper's voice wasn't what I imagined. No arrogance. No mystic coach serenity. It was low, measured, slightly hoarse like he hadn't slept either. I didn't respond. I wouldn't have called, he said. But I figured you'd come looking for me eventually. And I thought I'd rather say something first before you punched me in the throat in a parking lot. I still said nothing. I didn't know she was married when we first met. Not until the second workshop. By then, it was already weird. We'd texted. Nothing happened. But I felt it. And when she told me, I backed off. She's the one who kept reaching out. I'm not saying that to blame her. I want you to know I wasn't out hunting someone else's wife. Finally, I spoke. She's pregnant. There was a pause. A long one. I know, he said. I closed my eyes. Something heavy settled in my chest. I found out 2 days ago, he continued. She texted me a photo of the test and said she hadn't decided what to do. Then she blocked me. I haven't heard anything since. Do you think it's yours? I asked. I don't know. I don't even know if I want it to be. Is that messed up? Yes. But I understood. We were both in the same burning building, watching the same flames lick our futures clean. I didn't love her the way you did, he admitted. Maybe I wanted to. Maybe I thought I did. But it was mostly adrenaline. Escape. We talked about you more than you'd think. I swallowed hard. She said you never saw her. That you looked at her like she was furniture. I built a life around her, I snapped. I didn't put her on a pedestal. I gave her the ground to stand on. I know, he said quietly. She told me that, too. She said you made her feel safe in ways she didn't know how to appreciate until it was too late. That hit harder than it should have. I'm not reaching out again, he added. I just wanted you to know I didn't plan any of this. And whatever happens next, I hope you come out of it whole. Or at least more whole than I deserve to be. He hung up. No drama. No fight. Just two men standing on the edge of a crater, unsure which direction the blast came from. I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I opened the calendar app, counted backward, did the math, traced every night that could have been the moment. Nothing lined up cleanly. Nothing erased the ambiguity. I could have been the father. So could he. And Moira, she had vanished. I texted Paisley. Where is she? It took her 20 minutes to respond. She's staying with a friend. Off-grid. I only know because she called once to ask me not to tell you. Too late. Then came the address. It was 5 hours away. A small cabin town near the lake where we once took a spontaneous winter trip. She said she hated the cold. I said I hated the silence. We laughed and froze anyway, made cocoa in our socks, and played board games on the floor. I packed a bag. I didn't know what I'd say. I didn't know if she'd even open the door. But this wasn't about closure anymore. This was about life, in the most literal sense of the word. And whether that life had any place left between us, buried beneath the ruins. The road to the cabin was narrow and winding, the kind that makes you doubt GPS and your own sense of direction at the same time. Pines flanked both sides like silent judges. The air was heavy with the smell of wet earth and wood smoke. I remember thinking that if this were a movie, there'd be some dramatic music swelling as I pulled up to the gravel path, but all I heard was my own heartbeat and the dull thump of tires over stones. Maura's car was there, parked at an angle, muddy from the rain. The sight of it sent a ripple through my chest. For a moment, I just sat in the driver's seat, staring, trying to remember how to breathe like someone who wasn't breaking. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Then, slowly, the door creaked open. She stood there in a hoodie and socks, holding a mug with both hands like it was the only thing keeping her from floating away. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. Her eyes looked tired, but not empty. She didn't look surprised. "I knew you'd come," she said quietly. "I didn't come to yell," I said, "or to blame. I just need to know the truth. For both of us." She stepped aside. "Then come in. It's cold." The cabin smelled like cinnamon and firewood. Simple warm. A single suitcase sat near the couch. A notebook was open on the table. Inside were sketches, tiny ones. A rocking chair, a baby sock, a bird's nest. We sat across from each other, and the silence wasn't sharp anymore. It was patient, like it had waited for this conversation longer than either of us. "I saw the video," I began, "and I spoke to Jasper." Her eyes didn't flinch. She just nodded. "I don't know if I'm the father," I continued, "but I want to be the one who shows up, not out of guilt, not out of obligation, because I still believe in who we were, even if we can't go back to it." She looked down at her hands. "You didn't fail me," she said. "I failed myself. I ran from the version of me that was safe, because I thought chaos meant freedom. But it didn't. It just made everything louder and lonelier." We talked for hours. We didn't shout. We didn't cry dramatically. We just unpacked it all. The silence, the drift, the bad decisions, the things we never said when we should have. At one point, she got up and handed me a photo. A sonogram. "I've decided to keep it," she said. "But I wasn't going to force you into anything. I thought you'd hate me forever." I looked at the tiny shape on the black and white print. The outline of a life not yet formed, but already reshaping everything. "I don't hate you," I whispered. "I just needed to find myself without you first. And now that I have, I don't know what the future looks like, but I'd like to build something new." We stayed at that cabin for 2 more days. We didn't get back together. Not officially. But we started something, not a redo, but a repair. A friendship that wasn't about pretending or surviving. A partnership based on choice this time, not momentum. 3 months later, she moved into a new place near mine. We go to appointments together. We argue over baby names and laugh about the dumbest things. She's painting again. I'm learning how to cook without overboiling rice. The baby's due in April. We don't wear rings anymore. But last week, she rested her head on my shoulder during an ultrasound and said, "I've never felt more seen than I do right now." And I realized maybe we didn't need to be perfect to find peace. Maybe forgiveness is just the courage to believe in something after you've watched it collapse. And maybe, just maybe, love doesn't always end. Sometimes it just changes shape and grows.